There are a few questions actually from the crowd, so be seated again. One of our Seattle coordinators, Scott Shuck, actually has the microphone and identified a few people that had some questions for Dr. Paul. So Scott, where are you there? Okay, hey Scott. Okay.
Test it.
There we go.
Thanks for coming, Dr. Paul. My question is on corporate welfare, and as president, what would you do to help end corporate welfare?
I would stop it immediately. Corporate welfare is a big issue because welfare on itself is usually started by bleeding hearts who are honestly concerned about those who are falling through the cracks, and we must help them. We have to have free medical care and free education and free housing and free, all this. But what happens is that always fails. They never seem to be helped. The perfect example of that is the housing bubble. It was supposed to be designed to give everybody a house. Well, they lost their jobs and they lost their houses. But who benefited? The corporations. The corporations made a lot of money as the bubble was being blown up. And Fannie Mae's and the Freddie Macs and the big banks and the many corporations, those who were involved with derivative trading, they get into trouble over their head, which is a natural consequence of an inflated financial bubble. So when it bursts, what happens? They're in charge through their lobbyists in Washington, and they yell and scream, oh, there's going to be a depression, so they get the bailouts. So that's the welfare that's really the big welfare. There's a certain amount of welfare just with the destruction of currency. Characteristically, the middle class shrinks, wealth is transferred from the middle class to the wealthy. So that is a corporate welfare too. So, but the one thing is there's we have a Tea Party movement and an Occupy movement, and some people get a little confused on that. But if it's corporate welfare, if people are very wealthy, I have a lot of complaints about big corporations ripping us off. But I don't condemn everybody who makes money because they deliver a good product to us, and we make them wealthy because we buy their product, it's a good product and the best price. That is different, but corporate welfare is the big one. And it also lends itself because the corporations and bank leak over into foreign welfare. When the bailouts came through the Federal Reserve, $7 trillion went to foreign banks and foreign central banks. That is big corporate welfare too. So in a free market, people say, oh, you guys, you people who believe in free markets don't believe in all these SECs and Sarbanes-Oxley and all these regulations. Well, they don't work. That's the reason. They get the people who they're supposed to regulate get to write the laws. So what you need is stricter rules, and that is the market. If you go broke, you go bankrupt, and you don't get bailed out. That's a stricter rule.
Hi, Dr. Paul. I saw your video with Bernanke, and a big smile came over my face as you were just making a lot of sense. I encourage you all to watch that video. It's incredible. But when he held up that silver coin and he talked about it, there's something very real about that. Honest money. If you could just tell the crowd a little bit more about honest money.
Yes, I was trying to make the point. See, Bernanke claims there's no inflation. So I asked him if he goes to the grocery store. He said he did. I said, well, nobody that I've ever talked to. How many people in here think inflation of prices today are 2%? How many believe the free market economist that says it's probably 9%? Yeah, much higher. But anyway, to demonstrate this, I held a silver ounce, and I said, well, when you came into the Federal Reserve, that silver ounce could buy about 4 gallons of gasoline. I said, but now this silver ounce that you despise, you won't let us use, and it's illegal to use, it will buy 11 gallons of gasoline. But he didn't have much to say there. But sound money retains value more, and actually goes up in value. Purchasing power goes up. But what is it in dollar terms? A gallon of gasoline is probably down to about a dime. We heard some of the other candidates say, if I can be president, I'm going to get gasoline down to $2 or $2.50 or down. And I said, yeah, but I could get it down to a dime. Return it to the silver stream.
Scott, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Right here.
Hi, Dr. Paul. It's a privilege to be in this room with you and all these liberty-loving Americans. My name is Robin, and I'm the guy that coined the term Blue Republican for all of the Democrats and independents who thought they were voting against crony corporatism, for civil rights, and against killing innocent people in foreign countries when they voted for Obama in 2008. And now they found out that they're wrong. So some of those Blue Republicans are becoming Republican just for a year to vote for you. So my question is, there are, however, a few who have liberal sensibilities who actually are discovering that they voted for Obama because they have been made dependent on our federal system, on the government in one way or another. So what can you say to those who fear what they will lose? Can you speak a little bit to the transition and why your libertarian utopia, were it to exist the day you were elected, which of course it won't, unfortunately, will not leave them on the street without any compassion?
Okay, so you're talking about the fears that might be that if I cut my $1 trillion, that they might lose their welfare benefits, that sort of thing. Well, in spite of my desire to cut drastically $1 trillion, I do have priorities. But I believe if we don't do something like this, drastically cut and get back to balance, if you have runaway inflation, everybody goes down to two. Like right now, Social Security and Medicare are bankrupt. So my priorities are that if you're elderly on Social Security, a promise was made that we should work hard to meet that commitment, as well as Medicare and child health care. But that money's been spent for wars and other things, so that money is gone. So the only way we could do that is to get out of the war business and save a lot of money. Now, does that mean there wouldn't have to be some adjustments and that we should change our system? No, I think we should. But if we're going to work our way out of it, we cut $1 trillion, we get out of the war business, we come over and we take care of the elderly, we stop the inflation because we start printing the money, which means the cost of living doesn't keep going up. Standard of living is going down for those on retirement. So ironically, I am the one that's most opposed to big government and spending, but I don't think anybody else has proposed that maybe having priorities and take care of the very dependent without fully endorsing that, because I think there is a better way of doing it. But we could work our way out of this. For instance, if we did this, even in my proposal, I would allow people 25 and under to phase out of Social Security, get out and start taking it care of themselves.
Okay, Scott, we have time for one more question, but after this question, I want everyone to stick around for about 2 or 3 minutes, and we're going to talk about what's going to happen tomorrow, the caucus, okay?
Hi, Dr. Paul. First, I love you, so that's... And so I'm a student at Seattle University, and I've been talking to a lot of people, about you and how I can, have them support you. And a lot of them are concerned about the elimination of the Department of Education that you have in your Restore America plan. So I was asking how students can pay for college if you eliminate the Department of Education. I know that I know, but I just want to make sure.
Well, okay, she's asking about the college kids worried about my position on education and how would they pay for it. Well, I think the federal government has dug a big hole for the college student. They've enticed people to go to college that maybe they weren't ready to go to college. A lot of people went to college. The quality of education has not gone up over the last 10, 15, or 20 years. The quality goes down. More people go to college, but the price goes up. When the government prints money, it doesn't go every place at one time. It goes to certain areas. Like medicine, prices go up. Housing, prices go up. Education, prices go up. So the cost is way too high because of government intervention. Then they make the loans available and they get people to make loans. When I went to school, believe me, it was much, much cheaper. You could get jobs and you could pay for your way through school. But when there's an excessive amount of inflation of prices, that's the government's fault. But constitutionally, there's no authority in the Constitution. Article 1, Section 8 doesn't say, and you will have a Department of Education that will take care of everybody's education from first grade up through college. It's not there, and it doesn't work. There's only one place where the federal government has responsibility, and that's Washington, D.C. It's probably one of the worst schools in the country. It has the worst education and more crimes. They have more laws against drugs and guns, and they have more crime there. And every year they come begging to Washington, to the Congress, and say, yes, we're having trouble, there's no doubt, but we'll solve our problem if you just give us more money. And of course they're up to about $17,000, $18,000 a year per student. And if you look to the opposite direction of somebody that does the homeschooling, they might homeschool somebody for $500 or $600, so there's a difference. So the result constitutionally, it's not the authority there, and quality of education is down. But if you want to say, well, that's good, that's theoretical, but what are you going to do right now? The most we could do for the students now who are walking out with this debt and are honest. I meet the students, they say, I shouldn't have done it, I have it, but I feel responsible, I want to pay it back, and but they can't get a job. You know, so the best thing we can do is restore health to the economy by the things I talked about, the regulations, taxes, monetary policy, getting out of these wars, then be able to get jobs and let somebody pay that debt down. But we can't keep doing what we're doing because in medicine's the same way. Dumping more medicine and more regulations and more rules and regulations on insurance companies, that will not solve our problems. So we need less government education, not more. Thank you very much.
Hang around for a few more minutes. What I want to do is I'm going to talk about what's the very important thing we're going to be doing tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be your opportunity to vote for Ron Paul. But we're going to vote at something called a caucus. None of us are going to receive ballots in the mail. Many of you already know this, but a caucus is essentially a meeting of neighbors, and it's going to. We need you to arrive at 9 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. You're going to find out where you are going to caucus at a website called votewa.com. Votewa.com. It's a precinct caucus. You need to know your location, show up early. You need to bring your picture ID and proof of your voter registration if you have it. And there you will vote for Ron Paul in the preference poll. And then we need you to stay after and become a delegate for Ron Paul. All right. Let's hear it one more time for Dr. Ron Paul.